In this video, we're going to take a look at the mixed-in key software and how it can be used to analyze and detect the key of tracks, and how then you can use that information to create harmonic mixes between either vocals and beats or between tracks. So this is the mixed-in key interface. It's a fairly simple bit of software to use. You've basically got a main window where you can drag and drop files in, and it can analyze them, and it can write key and BPM and various other bits of information onto the ID3 tags. Now, before you start analyzing tracks, you need to be careful because you don't want to start messing up other information that your files might have, or renaming files by accident, which can then mess up other playlists in platforms such as Rekordbox or Serato or Traktor, for example. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to Settings, and here I get a lot of different options as to where I want the tags to be written. So when it detects the key, where is it going to actually put that information? So what I can choose is whether I want just the key code itself. This software also gives you the option of having an energy level rating, so it gives you a number from 1 to 9, which can tell you roughly how energetic or dynamic the track is. So you could ask for it to tell you the key and the energy level, or you can ask for just the energy level, or however you want it displayed, basically. What you do need to be careful of is that you don't let mixed in key rename your actual files, because that can mess up playlists that you've got in other applications. So if you go to the rename files menu, here you've got options, and one of them is do not rename files, whereas if you've got automatically rename files after processing ticked, you might end up renaming your audio files, which can cause all sorts of problems with other playlists and other DJ software. So do be careful. And then when you're in the tags section, this is just referring to the ID3 tags and where information is going to be written in terms of the tags. Is asking whether I want to update the key code that I might have already been given from software such as Traktor or Serato, because it is more accurate than a lot of the other platforms out there. So you probably would want to update the initial key tag if you'd already analyzed the key in Rekordbox or Serato, for example. So that all looks good. Now what I'm going to do is analyze some tracks, see if I can get any that are in key with each other. This system works around the principles of the circle of fifths. So if I open up the Camelot wheel here, you can see you've got these key codes, and basically each musical key is assigned a code, and that means that when you've analysed all your tracks and you can see the codes, you can kind of work out which ones might be compatible based on the principles of the circle of fifths. So you can see here you've got a different key name. So for example, E major is 12B. Now 12B supposedly would be complementary to tracks that were in this key, B major or A major or D flat minor. Now they're not necessarily going to sound good, but this is based on the principle that the first and fifth note in a scale generally sound complementary to one another, because it's a nice harmonically compatible interval. Whereas when you're dealing with full tracks, obviously there are notes in the key of E major that won't be in the key of B major, so you do have to be a bit careful. It won't mean that every track in 12B will sound good with every track in 1B, but they're more likely to be compatible than totally random keys. Now if your key is a major key and then you've got another key that's the same number but a different letter, so 12A and 12B, they are the relative major or minor keys of one another. So they're even more closely related keys, really, because they're kind of based around the same scale of notes. For example, the easiest one, C major, if we find where C major is, that's 8B. The relative minor key of C major is 8A, which is A minor. So the key of C major is the same notes as the key of A minor. It's just the root note is different. Obviously it feels different because it's a minor key, but they are quite closely related. So you might find that you've got a track that's a major key and you mix it with the relative minor key of that, and they might work well together because the notes and scale is the same. It's something to use as a guideline, this system. It won't always work, but what it can do is give you ideas and help you find mixes that you may not have thought about putting together. Let's analyze some tracks now. I'm going to go back to my collection here. I'm going to drag some tunes in. So I've got this folder of beats, and I'm also going to analyze some acapellas and see what that comes up with. So let's drag those in. And now what it's doing is it's processing this and using its algorithm to work out what it thinks the key is. What you can do, if you wanted to double check whether it's the key you think it is, you've got an actual built-in piano here. So if you click on that, it brings up a virtual piano telling you the code for each particular key. And you can actually play notes. So you might want to double check, is this track in C major? You could actually play the keyboard along with it just to double check whether it's got it right. As with any software, this is not 100% accurate. If you're a musician, if you've got perfect pitch, you're probably going to notice occasions where this has got the wrong answer. But as I said, use it as a guideline. So we've got a few tracks analysed here now. Let's see what we've got in common. So if I click on key result here at the top, I can get it to put them in order of key, so it will group them together so I can see which ones are compatible. So you can see here at the bottom I've got a few tracks that are in the same key. So I've got an a cappella there which is 9A, and I've also got a track which is 9A. So let's see whether these work together. So what I'm going to do is now I want to put these tracks into Rekordbox, and I don't want Rekordbox to analyse the key of my tracks because obviously I've already got the key codes and I want to retain what mixed in key is telling me rather than the Rekordbox ones. So if I go over to Rekordbox now, and I'm going to create a playlist and put those tracks into that playlist. Now, before I import these tracks that I've already analysed with mixed in key, I need to check my settings in Rekordbox so that it doesn't overwrite those key codes that I've just gathered. So if I go to the preferences of Rekordbox, under analysis mode, I've got some options here. So it's asking me under track analysis setting, what do I want it to analyse? Do I want it to analyse the BPM and the key and the phrasing? So I'm going to say no, I don't want the key analysed, I just want the BPM. So then it's not going to overwrite my codes that I've already gathered from mixed in key. I'm going to drag those tracks in. Now you can see over here underneath the key field for these tracks, it's showing me the key codes that I've gathered from mixed in key. Because if I analyse these with Rekordbox, it would be showing me the actual names of the musical keys, whereas I want it to show me the codes. If I control and click here and make sure comment is visible, you can see I've also got the key codes at the start of my tracks here. So let's try the two tracks that are in 9A. So first I'm going to just find a point from my a cappella where I can drop it in. So if I go to where the first vocal starts. Now, just to note here that Rekordbox hasn't analysed the a cappella correctly, so this BPM value isn't the correct BPM of the a cappella. So I'm just going to mix this by ear and ignore what that's telling me. Now I'm going to put the beat to a melodic part, so there's actual musical notes playing, and then I'm going to drop it in and see if it sounds any good.
You're giving me a rush, rush. Every time that you come around, and when we touch, I can't get enough. You're giving me a rush, rush. Every time that you come around, and when we touch, I can't get enough. Tell me all you, tell me all you, tell me all you, tell me all you, tell me all your secrets. I won't tell a soul, I'll keep it on the low. Just tell me what you do that makes me wanna lose control. We got.
So you can hear there, I mean, that pretty much worked for me. I think that sounded quite good. It won't always be that easy, but you can try and analyse loads of tracks. You're going to find some tracks that work well together. Now, you've also got in Rekordbox this key sync function, so you can actually tune the tracks to make them complementary keys if they're not already. You've also got the same function in Serato, which is like auto key matching. So if I were to change this, you can actually make it a semitone or however many semitones you want lower. So if we listen to this a cappella now,
can't let nobody come in between. I know
obviously it's a lot lower in pitch, so you could actually purposefully tune the tracks together to make them complementary if you saw that their key codes were not the same. If I wanted to, I could just analyze some tracks that are already in a record box playlist with mixed in key so that it gives me the key codes, because it might be that I've analysed them and only got the actual key names and I want to get the codes, or I want them to be accurately analysed. So what I could do is just drag and drop simply from a record box playlist into mixed in key. So I've got both apps open. I'll drag those tracks in. It will process them as normal. And then all I need to do is go back into record box, select those tracks and select reload tags. And then now you can see that it's added the codes instead of the key names that it previously had. So it's updated within record box. So that's another way that you could do it if you've already spent a lot of time sorting out playlists in record box and you just want to analyze those tracks mixed in key. That's the way to do it. If you are using USB keys or hard drives with external decks rather than using rekordbox in performance mode, then obviously it is worth checking that you've made key an active category and also a sort category, because then when you're on the CDJs you can be sorting your music according to key live and finding mixes like this without having to plan them. So if I just click into export mode of rekordbox, what I would do is make sure that on my drive I'd need to make sure that under category I've made sure that key is an active category, and also under sort I've made key a sort category. So it means when I'm inside a playlist, for example, I could then sort that according to key and it would order my music according to those key codes so I could find compatible mixes. Also, if you need more help with this, there's a great lot of tutorials inside the app itself. So if you go to the left hand side of the screen, these integration tutorials down here show you exactly how to integrate it in the best way with whatever your chosen DJ software is. So if you're using Traktor and you want to make sure you're using it properly, go and look at the Traktor guide, because it tells you exactly how to sync and use those codes most effectively in that platform. So as you can see, mixed in key is a really useful creative tool for finding compatible mixes. It's not the be all and end all, you don't have to use it, but it can help you find some really cool transitions that you may not have thought of doing.
That's it. I hope you guys learnt something today. If you guys want to learn more about music production or just want to check out some free online courses, samples, or other goodies, check out pointblankmusicschool.com.